In the last video, I showed you how to build this miter box for slotting the fretboard, and today we'll actually do the slotting of the fretboard. Here's the fretboard. It's a rosewood fretboard blank that I bought from Stuart McDonald, and I believe I put a link in the last video if you would care to see where that came from. I also showed you how I made the template for slotting the fretboard. So the process today will be to stick the template to the fretboard with some double-faced carpet tape, and from there we'll slot the fretboard in the miter box. The template's a little bit wider than my tape is, so I'll just apply the tape and I'll line it up with one edge. Stick it on. I'll just go a little bit longer than what I need. And then I'll just butt a second piece against there. Then I'll trim that to length and width once I get it stuck to the template. This end I need to take a little bit more care in trimming that, because this does need to be square with one edge of the template. So I'll just butt the template against the edge of my square, line it up with that end line. So there's the tape applied to the template. I didn't quite have my camera positioned right while I stuck this template to the wood, but what I did was to peel the backing off the carpet tape from the back of the template, and this carpet tape is very sticky, and so much so if I would have just stuck it directly onto my fretboard as is, when I peel this off it could pull the fibers, wood fibers, right out of the fretboard. So to decrease some of the tackiness of the tape, I first just put it on my shirt, and some of the fibers from the shirt reduces the tackiness of this tape. It still sticks very well, but it should not pull the fibers out of the wood. To stick this on here, I just simply lined it up with the edge, which is the nut end of the fretboard, and along one side, and just stuck it on there. Next I'll get the miter box set up, and to set that up I just need to clamp that to the edge of my workbench. Like so. And then Just start cutting the frets, the fret slots. This is a pretty simple process. I just need to line each fret slot up with the kerf in the miter box. Set my saw in there, and I can see how close I am. That looks good. Clamp that down. I have one edge of the fretboard butted against the one edge of the miter box. In the last video I showed you how I stuck this gauge block to the edge of my saw so to act as a depth stop. So the next step is to solder the slot. There's the first slot. So one down and several more to go. I'm down to the next to the last fret slot. It's taken me a little while to cut all those, but it hasn't been particularly difficult, other than it is a very hot and humid day today, and my shop is not air conditioned, so it is very hot in here. This last slot I can't get my clamp this into the board here, so I'm going to have to position it here. It should work just fine. That is the last slot. So there it is. We'll see how tightly this is stuck to the fretboard. You can see, even with me trying to reduce the adhesion on that a little bit, it's pulled those fibers out of the fretboard. It won't be that noticeable, but if I hadn't stuck that to my shirt first to make it less tacky, it would have even pulled more fibers out than that. So there we go. This fretboard, as it is right now, is oversized. If I flip it over, you can see from the neck it's much wider than it needs to be. If I just set the neck temporarily on the guitar, you can also see it's much longer than it needs to be as well. So I need to taper it, and I need to determine not only the width but also the length of the fretboard, and more specifically I need to determine where this fretboard sits on the neck. If I get the blueprint, I'll show you how that is determined. Okay, here's the blueprint, and the neck intersects the body of the guitar at the 14th fret. So to position the fretboard on the neck, and I'm just kind of holding this together so it's kind of wiggly. I'll count down 14 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So to determine where this sits, I will bolt a neck to the body of the guitar and line up the 14th fret with the intersection of the neck and the guitar, and that will tell me where that sits. Once I get the positioning of the fretboard on the neck, then I'll be able to mark it off so I can cut that taper and also cut it to length. So kind of the order of operation, I guess, will be to determine where the fretboard sits on the neck, and I'll mark that. Then I'll be able to taper the fretboard, cut it to length, install the frets, and then glue the fretboard to the neck. I want to install the frets before I glue it to the neck because they have to be pounded in with a hammer, and that'll be a lot easier to do when I lay this fretboard on the tabletop rather than having it glued to the neck, then having to support the neck somehow and then install the frets that way. I've seen it done both ways, and I guess maybe it's a personal preference, but I prefer to install the frets before I glue the fretboard to the neck. That's it for today. The next time I'll be locating the fretboard on the neck, and I'll taper the fretboard, cut it to length, and then I'll be ready to install the frets. Thanks for watching.